Sitting in a silent courtroom while your own flesh and blood tries to legally declare you incompetent is a special kind of hell. Just 3 hours ago, I watched the woman who gave birth to me spin a web of lies, claiming I was completely unfit to manage my own life and finances. She wanted my hard-earned assets, my home, and my dignity, and her high-priced legal team was grinning like they had already won. But the atmosphere shattered completely when the presiding judge began reviewing the actual financial documentation and private records in front of him. His expression turned completely pale, and he abruptly slammed the gavel down, demanding that security detain everyone involved in the fraudulent petition. My name is Vanessa, and at 28 years old, I never imagined my family dynamics would culminate in a criminal investigation. The seeds of this betrayal were planted over 2 decades ago, when my mother decided that raising a 7-year-old girl interfered with her glamorous lifestyle. I vividly remember the chilly autumn morning. She packed my tiny suitcase, dropped me off at my grandparents' sprawling estate, and drove away without a backward glance. She left me with nothing but the fading scent of her expensive perfume, and a vague promise to return once she sorted out her personal affairs. My grandparents' massive estate became my refuge, a place where order and discipline replaced the chaotic neglect I had known. My grandmother Victoria ran the household with absolute precision, teaching me traditional etiquette, proper speech, and the importance of personal integrity. Meanwhile, my grandfather Arthur took a completely different approach to my education, treating me like a future business partner rather than a fragile child. While other kids played games, Arthur sat with me at the mahogany dining table, teaching me how to analyze market trends, evaluate real estate portfolios, and understand compound interest. He constantly reminded me that financial literacy was the ultimate form of self-defense, especially in a world where people will exploit your ignorance. My mother only appeared on sporadic holidays, bearing extravagant gifts that felt more like bribes than genuine tokens of maternal affection. By the time I entered an elite preparatory boarding school at 14, I had completely stopped expecting my mother to be an active parent. She framed the expensive academy as a grand opportunity for my future, but we both knew it was just another convenient way to keep me at a distance. I coped with the profound isolation by burying myself in advanced mathematics and economic theory, finding comfort in numbers that followed logical rules. While my affluent classmates spent their summer vacations traveling the world, I returned to the estate to study tax laws and corporate structures under Arthur's strict guidance. I excelled academically because excellence was the only shield I possessed against the persistent feeling of being unwanted. Graduating at the top of my class opened the doors to an Ivy League education, a milestone my mother predictably used to boost her own social status. She arrived late to the ceremony, loudly proclaiming her pride to anyone who would listen, yet she knew absolutely nothing about the sleepless nights that earned my degree. I transitioned immediately into graduate business school, refining the strategic financial skills that my grandfather had fostered since my early childhood. My mother's communication dwindled to automated text messages sent by her personal assistant, which suited me perfectly because I was building a fulfilling life. I secured a demanding position at a top financial firm, earning every promotion through sheer competence and exhaustive preparation. When I purchased my own downtown apartment at 24, using entirely my own salary and investment returns, my mother suddenly reemerged with intense curiosity. She called me out of the blue, masking her surprise with a patronizing tone while subtly questioning how a young woman could afford such luxury without assistance. When she offered to review my property deeds and banking arrangements, my internal alarms went off, and I politely but firmly declined her intrusive requests. Her sudden interest grew even more pronounced after my grandmother passed away, leaving a massive void in our family structure that accelerated my grandfather's declining health. Arthur survived less than a year without his lifelong partner, leaving me completely heartbroken and utterly alone. The formal reading of the will was a masterclass in tension, as my mother arrived draped in designer mourning attire and an expression of manufactured grief. The family attorney calmly announced that Arthur had bypassed his daughter entirely, bequeathing the entire multi-million-dollar estate, corporate holdings, and properties directly to me. The room turned icy cold as my mother demanded a recalculation, refusing to accept that her parents had deemed her completely untrustworthy. The attorney quietly presented a private addendum from Arthur, stating that I had earned the inheritance through decades of demonstrated maturity, wisdom, and financial discipline. My mother left the office in a silent rage, vowing that a 26-year-old would not keep what she believed belonged to her. For the next year and a half, my mother executed a calculated strategy, pretending to be a supportive parent while secretly gathering ammunition against me. She initiated weekly lunches, recommended shady wealth managers, and continuously suggested that we place the inherited properties into a joint trust for protection. Recognizing the patterns of manipulation my grandfather had warned me about, I quietly documented every single interaction, saving voicemail messages, texts, and emails. The conflict reached a boiling point during an unannounced ambush at a restaurant, where she aggressively demanded that I hand over financial control. When I calmly refused to surrender my independence, she smiled coldly and told me that family always finds a way to correct mistakes. A few weeks later, process servers delivered a massive legal petition, revealing that my mother was suing for total conservatorship over my life and assets. The document was a malicious fabrication, filled with falsified affidavits from distant relatives and former employees claiming I was mentally unstable and financially reckless. They painted my dedication to my career as a symptom of severe emotional paranoia, arguing that I had manipulated my vulnerable grandparents into altering their will. It was a terrifyingly thorough character assassination designed to strip away my freedom and hand my inheritance to a desperate opportunist. I immediately contacted our trusted family attorney, who surprised me by revealing that Arthur had anticipated this exact betrayal before he died. Arthur was a brilliant strategist who left nothing to chance, having compiled an airtight dossier specifically designed to counter any fraudulent legal challenges. The file contained independent psychological evaluations of my grandparents, exhaustive audits of their estate planning, and glowing character references from my corporate supervisors. Most importantly, it held a certified video recording where Arthur explicitly stated that his daughter was a reckless spendthrift who should never access the family wealth. When the judge viewed this overwhelming evidence in court, he realized my mother had committed systemic perjury and attempted to hijack the legal system. As security escorted her out to face criminal charges, I realized that my grandfather's final lesson had given me the ultimate freedom.